I want to welcome everybody. My name is Lorne Brown. I'm the president of Healthy Seminars. And today I'm joined with Dr. Randine Lewis for a series called Conscious Tuesdays, Finding the Calm in the Presence of Uncertainty. And Randine's talk today is going to be on raising consciousness, finding flow during this challenging time. And because of this challenging time, this time of uncertainty, this idea behind Conscious Tuesdays, I had two main goals and why I set the series of these lectures up. One is I thought during this time of isolation, and it's really a physical isolation, it does not need to be social isolation. We chose to make our webinars where everybody has their camera on because it gives us an opportunity to see each other, and that's a part of that connection. Community connection is important for the vitality of the human being. We are creatures of connection and community. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put together this series of Conscious Tuesdays and have everybody's camera on, is so we can actually see each other. And so it brings me great joy to be able to see all of you in the room today. So thank you for joining us. And then the other goal or purpose for this is Randine and I have been chatting during this whole process over the last several weeks. I had to cancel the Integrated Fertility Symposium. This was well before isolation happened. And I remember Randine was talking at the time saying, because I didn't have a decision yet and I was getting all my information and there was so much fake information out there and I was trying to move my way through the facts from fiction, and I wanted to make a decision here and people were pressuring me, what are we doing, what's happening? And Randine said it so nicely. She goes, oh, well, right now you're just in the small intestine. You're basically distilling, the clear from the turbid. And once you have that clarity, Lauren, you'll move into the gallbladder and you'll make your decision. And I said, exactly, that's what's happening. So I worked on my small intestine. I came up with my decision and we canceled the Integrated Fertility Symposium. So I went back to Randine recently because of this isolation. And I was clear for me that I was not in panic or hysteria, and I was on purpose and focused. However, I was getting emails and calls from colleagues, and it was my impression they were in panic and hysteria. And I wanted to bring something where you had an opportunity to lean in and elicit that sense of calmness. And so the purpose of this is for you to get grounded again. And if you're already grounded, to help you maintain that grounding. And if you've lost it, and I don't think I believe you if you said you haven't, because I have moments every day so far where I've lost it, but then I use my tools to find myself grounded again. I thought it'd be great for self-care for ourselves to get grounded again. And then take these tools and this learning again, this learning that a lot of us know, we're being reminded, and maybe hearing it for the first time as well. We can take this via telemedicine to our patients. So first we're going to fill up our baskets today, and Randine's going to kick us off with this. And then we're going to share these tools that we're getting to our patients, because we can only heal our own minds. And when we fill up our baskets and we're grounded and we get that sense of calmness, then we get to share that with our patients. And this is how we heal the world. We heal ourselves, we heal the communities. So Randine, I wanted to thank you for willing to do this and being eager to do this. And I thought if you had any opening address, go for it. And we talked about maybe even just starting with a gentle meditation just to kick this off.
All right. Well, thank you, Lauren. I do have a meditation. It'll take me about 30 minutes to put it in the proper context. Then I'll talk about it for another 30 minutes. Then we'll do the meditation and I'll open it up for you guys for like 30 seconds. And no, I'm just kidding. I do have a lot of information and a lot of context. And what I would like to do this evening is really put this keep it in a very deep Taoist Chinese medicine context so that we can be further rooted in our own medicine. And so that's what I want to begin with. So if we can start with a meditation. First of all, wherever you are in the world, just get comfortable. You are welcome to close your eyes. You can sit down, or you can keep your eyes open and just, take in the words. Try to open up your senses a little more out of the stream of thinking and into the open awareness where we're connected to a larger field. So in this process, take a few deep breaths into the lower dantian and middle dantian. I like to breathe into the lower dantian, inhaling into the belly, and then exhaling through the middle dantian, and just feeling that relaxation as your heart and your lungs exhale. So breathing into the lower dantian and exhaling out of the middle dantian. Really feel your chest expanding. Now, in the heart of the fire of this seeming chaos, there lies a hidden spring. And that hidden spring is within. And it's within your own empty heart, empty of your opinions and ideals, empty of your own conscious interference with nature's new unfolding. So just be still and kind of take that acknowledgement in. And look within, not so much with your physical eyes, but with your heart, going deeper and deeper. Feel the center of your being. And with every breath, acquaint yourself with this space until you can't find the separation between you and this spaciousness. Just let yourself dissolve into it. And the spaciousness within, let it take you in. This is your most precious treasure. And as it takes you in, feel as if all of this spaciousness is then falling into you. Like the whole universe is falling into you. And this is ultimate yin, the receptive. This is the doorway to the mystery. This is the connection to all of life. We find it within, not without. And this is where unity resides, in the very center of your own being. And just take a couple more deep breaths. And exhale a little longer than you've inhaled. and then bring your awareness back. When we're exercising the lung, we're exercising the exhalation. We're exercising the release, the surrender, the letting go. So hopefully that can bring us into a place where we feel more connected to one another. As we're looking without and seeing people on the screen, I hope that we can all feel inside that connection. And inside where we might be feeling our uprootedness, our anxiety, as some of the ways that we tend to look without and be a little yang. Let's see if we can integrate that yang with the yin. Interestingly enough, this particular evil chi that we're dealing with is especially ravaging those that are deficient in lung yin. And so the more that we can exercise this yin and this depth and the depth of our own breath, we're not only working on our own physical strength, but we're working on our own spirit of the practitioner. And the spirit of the practitioner is, we hear from the Suen that the highest skills in our medicine maintain the spirit. And, ordinary skills take care of the physical body. And we all know, and we're all reacting to 99.9% of the information out there, and the physical distancing is based on the physical. And what are we doing to care for the spirit of the practitioner? The Ling Shu tells us to use the spirit to reveal the spirit and guard the guest at the door. Carefully observe and understand the origin. The guest at the door must be honored and shown respect. If the host is rude, the guest may become unruly. So let's just keep that in mind. And that's really where I started with this. Like, who is this guest? And what does this guest have to teach us? If we really go to the heart of our medicine, that's what we're doing. What's going on during this time? And what's going on during this time, it immediately brought me to the recognition of, I've talked about this before, but it's where the classics talk about the aversion to heaven, the aversion of heaven, where heaven itself, or the cosmos, or life itself, the spirit of existence, the creative power, that heaven, the gate of heaven, which bestows life, withholds its virtue during certain times. And when it withholds its virtue, it's because the human beings have lost their connection with heaven. The human beings no longer follow their destiny, their true destiny, which comes from the cosmos, which comes from our origin. And when we lose our most precious resource within, there's disorder, and life of humanity will perish. Heaven shuts its gates, depriving earth of its life, and withdraws vitality from life. Then the chi becomes unhealthy, and there is no more surging. Vegetation no longer prospers. Everyone is in it for themselves. And only the saints who follow the natural course can escape from harm and save beings from distinction, so the chi of life doesn't run dry. And so there are admonitions to withdraw from life and go within to find that eternal spring again. And when that eternal spring is found within and the potential for unity comes back, then humanity has the potential to allow heaven to open its gates again. And so I think this is a very ripe time. I think that we could all agree that we've really lost as a species, that we've lost our connection to heaven. We have been greedy and we've been in it for ourselves. We have been very young. We have been on the run. It's been more, faster, quicker. The same things that I've been yammering about for decades about infertility. There's too much yang. There's not enough yin. We've forgotten how to rest. We've forgotten to go to our origin. We've forgotten who we are. And so during these times of going within, that the sages and the higher practitioners were encouraged to do, that it was their duty to go find that unity, find their own destiny and come back with it, find that intrinsic connection to all. Now, when I go deeply within during this time, I have to encounter all of my own distractions. There seems to be a backlash from all of the activity now that I'm sitting down. It catches up to me. And I have to feel that within my own body. And when I go deeper within, and when I go into that space of the heart, I encounter my own fear. I encounter my own tendency to go without. I encounter the way that I want to blame others for this, that it's because those people, it's because of big pharma, it's because of, I want to blame political and governmental organizations. I want to blame institutions. And I have to take it from you've been greedy to we've been greedy to I've been greedy. And I have to sit in the discomfort of how I've contributed to this that we're in. Now, we haven't even talked about the guest at the door, but I think the guest at the door is, doing what some of the lung pathogens that can really, incite a good PO response tell us to do. The lungs are what connects us to heaven, that lift those wings within us when we have shed the attachments to things that are no longer in alignment with heaven within. So, I also encounter a lot of grief, the grief of our potential extinction right now. And that's hard to feel. It feels very crushing at times. And I want to be with that so that I can kind of expand that spaciousness and really let it in, let the reality of that penetrate so that I can truly be of service. If I am out here making an issue with it and I have not quieted my own heart, then I'm part of the problem. A lot of as we center more deeply, as we go and become more yin, we become more capable of, releasing this true power of our own inner virtue that unfurls itself. And when I read about the art of the heart really tells us, slow down. Right now, we've all been stripped of our roles, and this is a global call to slow down. And this collective space can pull us out of our own imprisonment of the egoic self and go deeper into the emptiness of the pure yin of the heart, empty of all desires, of the self, even the best of desires. It tells us to empty ourselves even of the best of intentions. And it says, if the heart can become like an absolute void, clear and tranquil, emptied even of myself, the empty human heart becomes the heart of the universe. And it's filled with the recognition of our divine true nature, our Tian Li, our celestial disposition. This is heaven within me. And fear keeps us out of that space. As soon as we're contracted into fear, our tendency is to look outside for danger. So we have to go beyond our own fear, feel it in the body, take it in, take ourselves in fully. And then we can let heaven use us, where a certain power comes to be able to spontaneously, in the moment of whatever or whomever we encountered, we bring this pure vibration of heaven within me into that situation. And it is always right. It doesn't run through the data bank. So I guess that's where I wanted to start for, I guess, these 15 minutes that I've been talking. So.
One of the questions we had is what we can learn from it, and you're suggesting it's that yin time, it's that stillness to go within, to go inside and slow down. This is a clear message from this guest.
Absolutely, and I think a guest like this is, I have to take it within. I have to learn my lesson. I can't tell you your lesson. I can do what I've done and, look at the nature of what we're dealing with. What is the nature of Wei Qi? What is the nature of protection? What is the nature of the lung? And then what is the nature of the guest? And when I've looked at the nature of this particular guest, it seems to be, like I said, it's ravaging those that have more lung yin vacuity. And so it's asking me to go deeper into the center of myself. It's asking me to relinquish some of those things that I have held on to, some of the ways that I bind my lungs into more inhaling, into more holding on to things, into more gathering. And a healthy lung is always about relinquishment, always about letting go. And letting go is a daily thing. It's not like, okay, I've let go of that. It's an everyday thing. Another thing that I've looked at is, okay, the lung itself, the Po metal is really about, when I go deeper into the letting go and into the corporeal soul is recognizing the sorrow of our own death. The fact that, here on the precipice between life and death, where we're looking at the potential for a lot of individuals perhaps being extinct, or looking at, a lot of the human races being extinct. I have to go into, how do I feel about death? Am I holding on to life too much? The virus itself, or the guest itself, occupies the place between life and death. It is not alive until it's within us. And so it's within me that it's going to reveal something. Now, the only way that I can raise my own vibration and become more yin, more Shen-like, and really raise my vibration is that I have to look at the ways that I have been overly young. I've been overly focused on the value of life is in the things that I'm attached to. The value of life is in the things that I have. The value of life is in my home. Well, what if I don't have these things? One of the things that Jeffrey asked in a seminar that I was at one time was really valuable, is what is your significance to yourself? if you're not looking to anything external for your significance. So all of those things that I might look to for my significance, I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a practitioner, I'm a whatever. All of those things I have to be willing to relinquish so that heaven within me is stronger than the attachments that I have. Now, I don't throw away the people that are important to me or the things that are important to me. I just have to hold the preciousness of the virtue of heaven higher than that. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's what I do. I have to go within. And part of going within is really feeling it in an embodied way. Not necessarily, okay, I've gone within and then back into the brain. What do my thoughts tell me about going within? And, the language of the the language of the sensory body does not speak through words. It speaks through feelings. It speaks through locations, textures, temperatures. It feels like this. It isn't until we give it words or an emotion that we are linking up the po with the hun, and then we're able to, give thought to it and express it. But when it's just in its pure raw state, I have to feel it in the body before it has its particular message for me. And sometimes the message for me, like today, I'm talking a lot of concept, but earlier this morning when I was just kind of feeling the heaviness, and I'm watching my tendency as I go in my heart to do this, like the bird that's looking out from the nest and just like, okay, what next? And I have to first allow that tendency to do that, recognizing that I've got this whole pattern of distracting myself. And okay, that's okay that I distract myself. What's beneath that? And when I went beneath that, it was looking at all of the ways that I tried to justify my existence day to day. And what if I don't do that? What if I don't justify my existence in any way at all? What if I just really do disappear into the void? And then there's stillness. But until there's stillness, there is stillness now. But this morning there wasn't. This morning there was grief. This morning there was fear. This morning there was a lot of discomfort that I had to sit through so that now I can talk about it. And that's my experience with it. It's no longer conceptual. It's what I do every single day that I try to live the Tao. And boy, are we given an opportunity right now to do that very thing.
It reminds me, in the new science of consciousness, the stillness you're talking about, going within, is where they mention the stillness is the sense of being present with it, being right there. So you're not trying to avoid the sadness or the grief. You're actually going to be present with it. And that's the only way you can get transformed. And I think it was Eckhart that said, you can still do as long as your doing comes out of your being. And so it's not so much from the outside, two people could be doing the same thing, but what is their being? What's going on the inside? And that's what the difference is. So for us, the Taoist side of it, so that would be, I'm assuming then, yin within the yang, because you have a sense of stillness. There's this presence with your doing.
It depends. It's either yin within yang or yang within yin. And the yang, one of the things that they talk about in the health of the lung and the health of metal and the health of autumn, they call it doing the cock. And doing the cock is a Qigong phrase of going with
Randine, we said you can't use the C word today, remember?
Doing the rooster. So going within where there's complete stillness, so there's yin within, but there's yang without. And so in that particular case, there's this total stillness within. And on that level, the ability, you're very quiet within, but everything is directed out. You're very aware of what's going on without. There's also within that inner yin, when you go deep enough, it transforms into its opposite. And that's the power of the universe that unfurls itself, that we have access to. So that's the yin within yang, and then the yang within yin.
And can you give some guidance then on some practical stuff with respect to our patients? Because I know a lot of the practitioners here have practices. I'm predicting, I don't know if this is how it will be, but I'm predicting the patients that are needing this, that are feeling tense, feeling stressed, feeling they need to do something, it will be difficult to ask them to go within and be still. So working on this concept of yin within yang or yang within yin, is there some doing we can provide for them that will bring the stillness and calmness? So there is some activity, we're going to give them something, and by doing that, we're going to build their yin, we're going to build their stillness, we're going to let them come within. Do you have some suggestions to basically how we're going to help ourselves and help the public stay calm, and collectively what actions they can take to strengthen this calmness?
Yeah, well, to strengthen the calm, and also to strengthen the Wei Qi and what the Wei Qi is about. And, I do a lot of educating, but I want to give some practical information as well. So the first thing for me, honestly, what we've talked about so far and the exercise that we did together, that's number one, doing. That this is the being doing. So we're going to do the being part first. And first we're going to feel that. That's the yin tonic. But then from there, if we want more practical things that we're going to do, what do we do to nourish yin? I did talk about the exhaling, and this is something that's practical for patients too, to teach them that breathing into the lower dantian, inhale in to let the kidneys grasp the qi, and then really focusing on exhaling. And as you exhale all the way. So it's one of the ways to really exercise the lungs, and I do this a lot in retreat, is to, once we've done the inhalation, now everything goes on the exhalation, just exhaling so that there's absolutely nothing left. Exhale, 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 exhale. So that the next breath comes in, we're only exhaling. And we're not focusing on inhaling, we're letting that breath come in. But the lung strengthens itself through exhaling. Then that's one of the ways that we strengthen the Wei Qi as well, by breathing into that lower dantian, which is the origin of the Wei Qi. It's informed by our earth element, by our empty center, and then it's expressed on the surface. So I'm going to be teaching a lot, I'm going to be talking about that, but the expression on the surface, because the lungs are one of the ways to work with the metal element. The skin is another way to work on the metal element. Doing a lot of dry brushing is helpful. Don't put things on your skin. Don't put deodorant on, don't put lotion on, no matter. This is a wonderful opportunity to not need to put on makeup and moisturizer. Doesn't matter how dry your skin is. If you are drinking adequate water and you are exfoliating properly, then your own skin will start to, your chole spaces will fill up with an inner fluid and be more protective than if you're applying it from the outside. And so we want to let what is within reveal itself on the surface. So dry brushing the skin, not putting anything on it. Doing a infrared sauna is another way. You know, you can purchase these little infrared saunas that are portable and have them in your own home or in your clinic for, I guess you wouldn't want to clean up after people after being in them, but that's another thing that they can do, the dry skin brushing. Eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables to nourish the yin. Fish are yin nourishing. Shellfish are especially yin nourishing. Some foods to nourish the lung are compact fruits, especially pears. Pears are like the metal of metal. So eating pears, eating almonds, and yogurt, even though we kind of try to stay away from dairy. A lot of seeds are very nourishing. Do as much physical exercise as you can in a sane way. I know a lot of people rely on gyms, and the gyms are closed. They rely on yoga classes that have stopped. And so, you know, we can do them on screen. The best thing that you can do is get out in nature, breathe the elements, walk in the elements. It's been raining here for a couple of days, so I haven't been able to do as much of that as I like. Qigong is a wonderful thing to do. Reishi mushrooms are probably the best thing that you can take right now. Reishi mushrooms have been found to limit the ability of the guest, the virus, to be able to bind to the enzyme through which it penetrates into the cell. So it inhibits that process. So reishi mushrooms are a wonderful way. Anything that you can do to protect the Wei Qi at this point. And strengthening the Wei Qi is really, it's strengthening the kidneys, it's strengthening the spleen, and it's strengthening the lung. And so all of these things that we're doing, you know, Huang Qi, the raw Huang Qi is good for strengthening the lung and the external defense. But the lung is that interface between internal and external. And so while we're doing all of these things to strengthen it and protect it, we also want to honor that the highest state of the lung is when we kind of lose the distinction between internal and external, me versus the world. That I start to see that my internal state is what creates the external reality in which I live.
That takes us back to the very beginning when you were sharing about it's that kind of time for your inner work. And the way you described, the way I interpret it anyhow is, you know, you talked about your grief, or how have you contributed to the greed. And so it's not about blame at all. I didn't hear you say it, but I know some people may interpret that way. It's about being responsible and accountable, and that because this is happening globally, like when some things happen, you got to say, how did I cause this for my external environment? As you were just saying, your external environment's a reflection of your internal environment. But this is a global thing. So what are your thoughts around this? Because that means this is a collective humanity thing, that we have created this. This is something not any individual can be responsible for, but
Right.
It's a collection for us to look at ourselves. And when people all want, I know, because I've seen in the chat, what supplement for this or that. I think at this stage, it's such a novel thing. I don't think anybody has the authority on what can or does not work. And what a lot of the goal of this was about is, how do you support your righteous qi? How do your defensive qi, your wei qi? And then how do you experience what's going on? Because there's news. For me, just so you know, I know one person that has this. I only know one person in my as a friend that has this. I don't have it, but there's many people like me that are not experiencing the guest and don't know anybody with the guest, but yet they are in full panic and hysteria. So a lot of today I want to know is the mental idea behind this, of how do we deal with this? And a lot of the stuff you shared sounds like different forms of meditation as well, right? And lifestyle, sleeping, eating, dry brushing, qigong, breathing.
Yes, and they are for the lung and they're for the Wei Qi, and they are specific to what we're looking at here and how it is uh, gaining entrance.
There's no magic bullets, what I'm trying to say, because people
Right,
feel like they want
because
a magic
it's
bullet.
not about this thing.
Right.
This is going to morph into a potential. We're not going back to the way things used to be. Life will not return to as usual. While we may not be secluded, we've already unleashed an environment on the earth that's going to be more ripe for new expressive pathogens from this way forward. So we can't go back to our usual normalcy bias that when this is over, it's going to be back to life as usual. So instead of that mindset of let's go back to this normalcy bias when everything returns to normal, we don't want that normal. Life itself has said that normal is not working for all of existence. So we need a new norm. So picture yourself and your life potentially 2 years from now. Now, how am I reaching toward the potential of a new possibility instead of this bias to return to the way things used to be? And yet remaining as present as possible. Like, okay, then right now, let's not live in the future, but be able to feel, use some of the wood element and some of the creative imaginings and some of the hun to pull us out of this Po emphasis and say, what can I really bring? If I could be the most myself that I could possibly be, and the most authentic expression of heaven within me in this life, and that could be of service to all of existence, then what would that look like? Now I have a feel for that. I can feel my heart opening just when I say those words. And I feel like, yes, I do have something to contribute. I don't know what that is, but when I'm invited to speak, when I'm invited to whatever, then that's the opportunity where, okay, now I feel like I can make a difference. I have something to share. I have to watch the way that I might want to appeal to what you might want to hear and instead say, you know what, this is what's true for me right now.
So being honest with yourself, speaking your truth is going to
Absolutely.
And can you again, then you touched on it, but so what is the Tao saying about this challenging time like this? Because some people look at this as tragedy, and looking at the chat, some people look at this as a gift, as opportunity. And so can you touch more on this perspective, this perception?
Well, the perception comes from, every time we hear in the classics about, at one time people lived in unity and they were at one with nature and they were at one with all of existence. And then came the fall. And, I was just pulling something out of the Huinanzi about that. And it said, coming down to the era of decline, people were abundant, but true wealth was scarce. People labored to the utmost, but their real nourishment was insufficient. And so it goes on and on about when the Tao is lost, we have substitutes. And those substitutes, we say they're okay, all right? Like, okay, maybe I don't have unity anymore. Maybe I'm not at one with all of existence, but I have these people. And I'm, nice to them. And it talks a lot about, when the Tao is lost, then there is duality. There's right and wrong. There is being humane, there's being righteous, and all of these virtues that come after the primary virtue is lost, that I am, my true existence is heaven within me, and everything else is a substitute. And when we're challenged enough that finally, wake up, it's not working this way. Those are the times when, through every transformation, through all of history, every transformation is preceded by crisis. We're in the crisis. So that's the urging. We're not to learn this pretty little, oh, aha, I was doing that wrong. Guess I won't do that any longer. I'm going to go back to life as normal. No, this is a true crisis. We have to go through the eye of a needle and transform into a new potential expression for life, or we will be extinct. That's what the virus, the guest, is really teaching.
And it reminds me, I interviewed Bruce Lipton on my lornebrown.com site, where I have stuff on the science of consciousness. And that's what he was saying in one of his most recent books. And he was saying that we're on the cusp. Like, this earth is going to continue. Humanity may not. And we have, and the shift is a conscious shift. The quote that so many people are sharing is the Einstein quote: "You can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking you've created it." And that idea is, if we're going to continue to live unconsciously, like the way we are, greedy and doing, versus going in and being awake and conscious, then we're going to probably become extinct. We have a chance. It sounds like that's what the Tao is saying, and what you're sharing as well is, this is a wake-up call. This is an opportunity to do things differently. Not I'm going to change this box. It's like, it's a redo, a reset.
Yeah. And it's not just simply doing things differently. It's not a lateral shift where I was doing this too much before. Now I'm going to do more of this. I promise I'm going to be more yin. It's like going within. It's actually going through the eye of the needle. You come out at a different vibration. And that vibration is more unitive. And we have to move to that unitive expression, or we will be extinct. We've already proven that. We cannot sustain at this level. But it's an inside job.
And it's an inside job. That's the key, because we so much want to go work on the outside, right? I got to go and fix this in my clinic. I got to go, like, it's everybody, and that's our reaction. That's why we're in this situation, myself included. What can I do to fix this? What do I need to do? Versus just sitting and going within. We want to work on the outside. And I take that Einstein quote: "You can't solve the problem at the same level of thinking if you created it." It was my doing without any yin behind it, without that stillness. My doing was not coming from my being. And I think the call we're getting is, your doing has to come from your being, that yin within the yang. And so finding that stillness.
I take it one step further, because when I go in, that's where I know my unitive state with all others. I don't go within to being and then come out to doing. It's not two things. The real going within is, I find the connection. I find the doing in the being. They're not two. It's being as doing. I don't ever lose that sense of being in the doing. And when that's there, then the presence of heaven is within me. It's in my consciousness. I am not acting from this personal sense of me and mine and what I want to experience. And I want to have all of these states of being happy and free and being a great healer. It's like, when I am really in that state, everything is there. Everybody is there. It's not, I go to these states and then I go back into, the mess of the world as it is.
Thanks
it's
for
like I lean into the mess of the world with my beingness.
And thanks for clarifying that, because that doing within the being, it comes from Eckhart Tolle, and that's exactly how he says it. It is, and I call it the yin yang. It's this dance, but it is, you're inside, you're so still, and your doing comes from it, as in, it's just effortless and natural. It's wu wei. It's not an effort. It's the doing comes out of the being, and you don't know what that doing is. You're not going in for the doing. You're just going in, and then all of a sudden you have this inspiration, this ideal. It's as if these hands from the heavens come in and open up doors for you, these visible doors, things just, opportunities happen in, and the doing flows versus it's an effort. And that's from Eckhart Tolle, not from me, but that's how I understood it. Now, a few people
Mine
made
was not from Eckhart Tolle.
I got to give you a few people have made some comments here. I just want to share them. Where was it? I like this one from Aldika. I just came upon my doing led to my undoing. Very cute. Less doing, more being.
Yeah, the concept of wu wei, that is what we're talking about.
Here, frankly, as scary as the income change is to zero, because most people, that's one thing I find very interesting. You know, often we covet what other people have. That's another desire. We see somebody with this car, this relationship, this life, and we want what they have, right? So sometimes our grief and suffering comes from we're comparing to other, right? We're coveting the other. It's very interesting because we're all in the same boat. Like, there's not like everybody's got no income all of a sudden, right? It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
I want to, so you're not kind of, I don't feel very many people are envious of anybody else. Unless you sell toilet paper, Purell, or you own Zoom, you probably don't want what anybody else has either. So, yes, frankly, as scary as the income change is to zero, I feel relieved to be with my kids and animals in my mountain retreat just to be. The moments of fear and grasping do come up randomly. She has a question following this, but it's kind of like we have permission to be right now. Like we actually have permission because your clinic, you've been told you cannot go to your clinic, you know, sit at home. Gain another 20 pounds. That's another reason why I want video on. I don't want you guys to be surprised in a month when you see me and I'm 20 pounds heavier. I need you to see me on a weekly basis so it's gradual to you guys as I gain my.
We're all going to be there.
If you want to have a successful practice in a month, get into weight loss. All right. So and then the question is, so I have this fear coming up randomly. What should I be doing to survive? Am I being responsible just to be for a minute? Because I'm sure a lot of us have that because we're not used to being. So do you want to address that? Should I be doing this? What should I be doing to survive? Am I being responsible to just be for a minute? I don't think that, yeah, go. Because right now there's nothing to spend on, right, Randine, except maybe food. Like really there's nothing you're spending on these days, correct?
Well, and I think one of the other ways that we exercise the metal element is to see how much we can do without. You know, the metal element in extreme is about, you know, taking on precious things and having all of these nice things. And so this is the way to exercise. How much can I do without? How much can I really, you know, not really isn't necessary for my survival? But I've acted as if it is, that if I don't have this amount, if I can't pay my bills, all of these things. Now, a lot of people are challenged by that. A lot of people aren't going to be able to pay their bills. That's really not survival. Even though it seems like it, we can take it to the extreme that I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be a homeless bag lady, I'm going to have cats and, you know, big old boots and break my hip and nobody's going to care. I can take it to the extreme as well. But true survival is in this state of being that we're talking about is really the recognition that I have always been cared for. I'm still here. I've missed a meal or two, but that was by choice. I really have never been in a place where the Tao did not provide for me. I think I'm doing it for myself. That's where I've usurped the power of the Tao. And I'm doing it. I'm doing it for all of them. I'm doing it for all of you because I am one of those. I have been deeply, deeply conditioned to be fiercely independent and self-sufficient. And so it's extremely hard for me to get that one through. That, wait a minute, no, these things are being done through me, but it's the Tao through me that's doing them. That's the highest calling. And we're all in this. You know, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people that are out there saying, you know, because I I may not be able to meet X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do a GoFundMe because my needs are more important. Everybody's going through this. We're all going through it. We're all having our personal challenge because of it. And so I think it's the way to move out of that fear and to settle into something deeper. And we may have to encounter, one of the things that Jeffrey says is, he doesn't say this, I'm saying this. It's our fear of death that's the ultimate fear, and it's the thing that we avoid most of all. It's our attempt to make ourselves exist, to make ourselves in an egoic way, in a physical way, in a psychological way. The very nature of yang is to make me exist. And the reverse of that is almost like, let's see if I'm not doing all of these things, if this precipice between existence and non-existence has something to offer me. Because the only thing that dies is the corporeal soul, the physical body, but there's something else that doesn't die. And if we don't find that in life, if we don't find that right now, then we're going to have a lot more fears and overcompensations. So I think we can use that fear of our own demise, our survival fears, and go into them rather than out of them, to overcome them and to transcend them. It's not by, okay, I've got everything. It's not by actually feeling safe that we accomplish the lack of fear. That we actually go through it and say, you know what? This may off me. I may not be around next week.
Be vulnerable.
And where am I with that? Absolute vulnerability. But that's the freedom too.
Right. So it's the willingness to be uncomfortable, because my meditations have been about being willing to feel the fear. So rather than denying it, this is the present moment. Okay, I let go of a bunch of staff. I let go of my staff, my clinic family, in their best interest, so they can collect insurance. Even though the logical decision made sense, and it's better than them not getting paid at all, it still felt awful. So then I meditate on that. What is that about? How old is that guilt and feeling awful, letting people down, disappointed? Like, I just used it. Just like before this happened with myself, my patients, I use what's happening now, and I just go into it, get present moment with it. Being willing to feel vulnerable, being willing to feel sad, being willing to feel lack. And that's when it gets transformed for me, Randine, is when I actually just sit with it and feel the fear or feel the lack, and I literally do my best to get present. It just transforms. I don't do anything. I'm just sitting, and the words I say is, I'm willing to sit in my discomfort of, and then I start to breathe through it. And that's, I don't know if that meditation exists anywhere, but it seems to be helping me transform. And I feel it's because I'm being present moment. I'm not disallowing my fear. I'm not denying my fear. I'm just being present moment into it. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
No, that's a beautiful way. And, the meditation that I began with was one particular meditation, but I do a similar meditation in the morning. The morning's the time when I get my best meditation, as I stumble out of bed and I'm getting my tea. I just sit in the quiet. I don't check a screen. I don't, check in with anybody. I don't read. I just sit and take in myself. And in taking in myself, I'm not like looking for, well, gee, what is the emotional landscape today so much? It's like accepting whatever's going to be coming. And some days it's heavy, and I have to accept that heaviness and allow that, let it live there. If that heaviness is there, even though it's uncomfortable, I don't want to, it's a guest too. And I don't want to deny its existence and suppress it and try to get it out of the way because I don't like it. It's like, okay, this is going to be a heavy one today. And then it's not bothering me. And like you said, Lorne, that when we can fully be there with something, it transforms. It's only when we resist it and try to stay away from it that nothing happens. It's going to pop up later. We may be, quite well equipped to resist it or distract ourselves from it. But it's really in allowing all of that discomfort that we expand beyond it and we become the field in which transformation occurs. That's what we do for our patients ultimately. These other things, that's just doing. But we become the field where their transformation occurs. And if I'm not there myself, I can't give that to others. Then I become an ordinary, the dreaded ordinary practitioner, the technician that just sticks needles in and gives herbs. But no, it's when we become the vessels for the Tao healing through us, it's our presence that activates their presence. That does the healing. That's what our classics tell us. We forget that, and even though, oh yeah, I have that reminder, we forget it when we're in the treatment room and we think, I'm doing the healing. I've got to help you. I've got to give you suggestions. The very thing that I do for myself that I just described is the best thing that I can do for another, to really take them in. And they feel that. If I'm busy filling it up with do this, and this is what's wrong with you, and I'm going to fix this, it's a very different field in which we're working. And when I can really take them in and be at the highest vibration possible, I'm inviting them into it. I can't help somebody if I'm not vibrating at a higher level than they are. If I'm kind of contracted in my own fear, I'm going to be transmitting that. So I really have to do the same for them. I get to let them be whoever they want, however they want, how fearful they want, but it doesn't impact me. I take that in. That's the way I practice kind of as more of a yin practitioner. I invite them into the space of my heart. I don't try to keep them out, but I have to operate at a higher vibration before I can do that.
You need to fill your basket. You need to be whole and complete.
Absolutely.
And that vibration affects them. It's funny to hear you share this stuff from the classics, because I've done such a deep dive on the new science of consciousness, and this is what they're saying. But it's written in my medicine. I should not have skipped my classical study.
It takes a lot of translating. Sorry, my dog's scratching to get outside, and I better let her.
There's a few questions for you, and I wanted to share a few ideas for people that from the left and the right brain side, or the 4D world and the 3D world, quantum physics, Newtonian. My conscious teacher here actually said, before all this went shut down, she said, trust in God and tie up your camels. And how I interpret that is, you don't just sit on a chair and think everything's going to be great, but the trust in God is surrender. Don't be attached to form and outcome. Go within. And then tie up your camels is wash your hands a lot. Distance yourself from people, right? There still is tie up your camels. So I want to share a few tie up camels for people, because some practitioners are doing this and some, based on the questions, may not be aware of this. So just to give you some of that physical support around the survival mode. A lot of landlords, because people are saying, I'm not making money and I have rent, and you're spending your money. Your landlords will take your rent as long as you pay. They'll be very happy because you're probably the only person paying rent to them. So most people can defer rent. Most landlords will allow you. And as long as you don't have it that they're drawn automatically, like they're in control, you just put a stop payment on your check and you tell your landlord with loving kindness and firmly, I'm deferring my rent. I will pay you. You're not asking for free rent. I'm just deferring my rent. And when I'm back to working and cash is back, I'll pay you my rent and I'll start to pay back rent. I told my landlords I'm not paying rent. They said no. And I said, well, I'm stopping payment. I'm not paying rent. And we'll discuss how this is going to go. I need to keep my cash flow so I can get this started again if I need to down the road. Many people can get EI. If you're a Canadian, they have things for self-employed people coming out April 1st. But the biggest overhead is your rent, right? So I just want to let you know you can talk to your landlord and you can share with them that you're deferring your rent. Tenants are doing that in Canada. Again, I don't know the American rules, but nobody can get evicted right now. You can defer your mortgage in Canada and I believe in the States as well. So if you make mortgage payments or you pay to a landlord, because everybody's in this same situation. And so what does the landlord do? Because he said, what should I do, Lorne, if nobody's paying me? I said, you go talk to your bank and tell them you're not paying them anymore either. And it seems like most people are understanding because it's not isolated to you, it's everywhere. So maybe stop the cash flow bleed, and the biggest bleeds are your overhead, your rent, your mortgages to your landlord. So I just wanted to give you that tie up your camel thing. And now back to Randine on trust in God.
I saw another camel thing here on a couple people have talked about telemedicine and how telemedicine can feel very distancing from the patients because we're not in the same room. I have been doing distance consults for a couple decades, and there is something missing when I'm not sitting in the same room with somebody. That physical presence offers something else. But in speaking on the phone or doing a teleconference now, when I began doing these, they didn't have teleconference available. So it was just talking to them on a landline. But there was still the ability to connect at a way where you can, kind of feel something within them and go with that. But I'm not going to just go into this, mind space with somebody. I'm going to use that mind space with them. I'm going to ask them a lot of questions, but I'm not going to ask them questions that are strictly about diagnosis. I really am interested in who they are and what they're about. And when I feel like I've touched something within them, where I've touched into their heart, that's picked up over the telephone. That's picked up over distances. That's picked up over a screen. It doesn't need face-to-face contact. It requires a bit of experience to get a comfort level with that. But, even being on these Zoom screens is practice for it. We are all equipped for this. We have what it takes. We acknowledge our own fears. We move into where things are moving. And even though there's fears that I may not be able to connect in the same way, then how can I connect in a deeper way? The classics also talk about connecting hun to hun. And hun to hun are, Claude Larr has some commentary on this, where we're connecting to a deeper, more ethereal level with others than hurling the density of our words at them. I loved that, because a lot of times that does feel what it is, just hurling the density of words at somebody. I use words until it kind of encapsulates a feel for me, and then I can be quiet.
Thank you for that. On the telemedicine idea too, people are asking about how do I do this, and we're trying to shift. Again, I don't think it'd be a wake-up call if it was so easy that we just snap our fingers and now we're doing telemedicine. So we're in unknown and uncertain times, and so it's going to feel uncomfortable. We've set up in our clinic, for example, telemedicine. I shared with my team, don't expect at the beginning much, because most people are in shock. Most people aren't working, so they're probably not going to want to spend money. And I was very transparent. I don't know what the future looks like. We just talked about it. So, but it's about being available and valuable. So if you're doing telemedicine, this is where the doing comes from the being. For me, if you're doing the telemedicine to make the money because you're feeling lack, it's probably not going to work for you. because your doing is coming from lack, from this desperation. If you're doing it because you got the time and you want to reach out and support people and you don't care if you got paid or not, then it may turn out differently for you, because you're doing, although it looks the same as the other person, your being is very different. And for the next couple of weeks, in my opinion, it's an opinion, not fact. There's no published, there's no third party to tell you whether this is true. It's just a thought or opinion. But I think as you reinvent yourself for the short term, because I don't know how long this will last, and you transition, again, this can be an enjoyable process as you decide how you want to show up via telemedicine and why you're doing it, getting in, and why do you want to do this? And like you, financial comes up. So that's when you meditate or you use the tools you have to transform that fear of lack. Because when you're doing it for the money, in my experience, it never works out very well, usually. If you're doing it for the opportunity, the freedom, the joy, often the money flows anyhow. And so that would be my opinion. That's what I'm telling myself anyhow. As we look at the telemedicine, every day we're adjusting, we're playing with it, because the environment is so, it's changing so fast, and we've priced it a certain way because we realize most people don't have the money right now to pay because they're holding on to it because they don't know. And, but we're being available because we think there's some support and value. We can still help our patients, and we're using video with our patients. It's not just telephone. The software we're using video, so we're getting this connection. We can still see the tongue for that part of the diagnosis from the Chinese medicine point of view, but it's this, just like we're sitting here and we're able to see each other, it's allowing a bit of a conversation happening. And so when you, as Randine shared earlier, when you're really present, your vibration's up, and you're here, and you're really here to listen to the patient versus to sell the patient something, I think they'll pick up on it and they'll have a very good experience, is what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter. That's probably the thing that I hear the most, that there's something that they just feel about being with me. It's not in what I've said or any of that, but it's, and you know, when we can go into that space where when I'm with another, I'm not with myself. I'm not like there, what do I think about myself, thinking about them. There's like no Randine in the picture there. It's just the other individual. And that can't happen when I'm in a place of division and separation and lack and fear. And Lorne, you talked about that coming from a place of lack. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. And that also brought to mind, there was an interview of Thich Nhat Hanh. I didn't see it myself. I just heard about it. But he was talking about coming over on the boats from Vietnam. And, you know, everybody's life was in danger. And, you know, there would be hordes of people on one particular little raft, and they would all be in a state of panic. And what am I going to do next? And you know, we're all going to die. Are we ever going to get there? And he said, if there was just one calm presence on each boat, that's all it took. Just one calm presence. That's the beingness that we all have access to, no matter how panicky we feel, no matter how we're being pushed into areas that are uncomfortable for us, because we all are. I remember when this was first beginning, you know, I felt like I almost had to apologize for not being afraid, because everybody was in this state of panic and I wasn't. And that's not any, I had my own fears that I had to look at, same kind of things that other people are dealing with. Well, that was taken away. That was taken away. Whoa, that's taken away. But it just completely sprung right back. And so
she's being truthful, because I called her up and tried to get her all riled up and panicked, because we're shut down, and she didn't even know what was going on. I go, Randine, and I was just sitting there waiting
Oh, I did too know what was.
she did not budge. She was, what? No. We're going to do something funnier, Randine. In a moment, we're going to let people have mic rights because we're going to close up so people can say hi and hello. Just we're going to see what it's like with 100 plus people. I do want to let you know that ages ago, we planned a full day talk with Randine, and it's going to be a live webinar. It was originally planned for the Integrated Fertility Symposium, which was canceled, but we're still going forward with it. Rather than Thursday, it's Sunday, April 19th, and it's called Exploring the Role of the Three Dantian in Self-Care and Psycho-Spiritual Transformation.
Can I say something about that? The title to that was originally going to be with Lori Deshar.
Right.
And so we were going to do this together. Now, even though it's very much the same, the title has kind of shifted, or the title hasn't shifted, but since it's just going to be my work, I'm really working much more on the inner landscape from the Neijing tool and the inner work that we can do on that for ourselves and for our patients, and have like new tools to offer them that are transformative, and using these myths and these stories within ourselves, that we can create this field and this context for others.
So we're going to post the link so you can in the chat room, but it's on the Healthy Seminars upcoming live. And that's what I thought, because you guys planned this a long time ago without knowing about the guest, and this talk now, it's so appropriate. So we're going to do a full day, 6 hours of CEU approved with Randine. And it's going to be a live webinar. It's not in person. You cannot come to Vancouver because she won't be here for it. She'll be in her home, and you'll be like you are today. And she's going to do the talk. It's a full day talk approved for 6 hours of continuing education on April 19th. And again, go to healthyseminars.com/live webinars, or you'll find the live webinars link on the homepage if you're interested in joining Randine for that. Guys, let's see if we can give people mic rights if anyone wants to say hi to Randine. Thank you, everybody.
Or can we go out there?
Refusing to show us. Thousands of Victorians exist for
Oh my gosh.
Lorne.
Nice to connect with everyone. Powerful.
Funny.
See everybody.
Thank you.
So many.
That's all our young coming out.
Gotta unmute myself. All right. I love that. I could pick up voices of people I know in that. While that was chaos, we're going to do that one more time. I could hear voices. Randine, did you have that? You're muted right now. Can you guys unmute Randine for a sec?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That was wonderful. It was like, that fire of chaos, and then there's something that comes through, and it's like, yes.
I loved it.
Lovely.
We're going to have, we got Keith Bell on our Conscious Tuesday on finding calmness in the presence of uncertainty. He's check out his topic entitled, it's on this theme. He's next week. And then we have Yvonne Farrell, and then we have Lori Deshar. So we got 4 of these scheduled so far. We do have a telemedicine for pregnancy support using diet, lifestyle, supplements, acupressure with Deborah Betts, Claudia Sikovitz, Kate Levitt, and Emily Solomon's happening. So check out Healthy for that. And Sharon Weisenbaum's putting together on herbal treatments for keeping you healthy based on the guest idea. So she's going to put hers together, and we'll have more as well. These are all free webinars that are coming up. And let's unmute people again. And Sandra, can it make it that when people if their voice comes up, they'll get highlighted? Because I saw 1 or 2 people got highlighted. So let's try that as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say to you that Keith Bell is actually here. So is Yvonne.
Oh, good. So Keith, unmute Keith and Yvonne.
Yeah, I unmuted Keith.
Oh, I'm unmuted.
Keith,
I'm unmuted too.
What's your topic next week? Remind me what you're doing next week.
Lorne, we changed the topic so many times the other day. I don't even remember
Sandra
what the
knows.
title is.
Helpless, hopeless.
It's like helplessness to harmony, understanding your gifts during crisis, challenge, and change.
All right, something of the
So
sort.
it's all about how to be and access who you are to navigate through a crisis, a challenge, and a change.
Perfect. And Yvonne, has Yvonne got her audio on?
I'm on. How are you?
Good.
Hey,
And
Yvonne.
This was so much fun and it was so great. I'm really looking forward to my turn. I guess the talk is consciousness and chaos, and I'm going to talk about the three-partner dance. Who's leading between Wei Qi, Ying Qi, and Yuan Qi? And how do we create harmony in that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Beautiful.
All right, unmute everybody, and then we could all say goodbye and get your faces up there. So thank you for participating.
Bye. Everybody.
Thank you so much. It's so awesome to have all this energy.
Great.
Bye.
We can do this.
Downtown.
We're all gonna be okay.
I know all of us
Are okay with me. Love you guys.
It'll
be better.
That's
that.
It was great.
Hi, everybody.
Really change. This happens.
See you all.
Anyways.
Love you, Bon.
Bye.
Oh my gosh.
Great. Thank you.
Jane.
And I think this is also an opportunity for us to look at what resources did we wish we had had in place.
It's all gonna be
Happened.
okay.
Wow, we're
And
still
then
going
put them
through
in
it.
place, so now they'll be in place. So there's probably a lot more that we can do with distance learning, with these kinds of infrastructure things that we never thought we'd have to, but we know we do need sometimes, and so we create those infrastructures and then
你的 summer 好像结束了。
Oh,
so
cool.
create not just about what you have, but know that build that.
That was awesome. That was really great. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.